In this video, we'll talk about how to select any object or group of objects for the purpose of editing and organizing. Like most other operations in Rhino, you have more than one way to get the job done, so feel free to use whatever works best for you. I'm going to zoom in onto one of these legs. And at the simplest level, you can just click to select, which we've probably done a few times already. You can also hit Shift to select more than one object. And if you hold down the Control key, you can start deselecting or subtracting objects from the set. This is very similar to all the Adobe applications like Photoshop and Illustrator, so nothing new there. Now let's try some three-dimensional selections. We have two kinds of boxes. So we've got the one that goes left to right that only selects stuff that's inside that box. So it's pretty predictable. But if you've got stuff that's maybe off your view, you can use the opposite box. It's called crossing. And we go right to left. So now that I've overlapped that strut, we've picked the whole thing, and it looks like a lot of curves around the ground as well. Now we'll try using the select command itself. First, we have a menu up here, select objects, and here's the variety of stuff you could select in this scene with some of the shortcuts. Control A is all objects. Again, that's common to a lot of other software. You can also select objects by its name, its layer, its color. Instead, we're going to just turn on this select toolbar right here. So here's some of the same things we just looked at. Let's try to select a few objects in the scene just by using their entity type here. For example, we can click on select all the curves. So all the curves in the scene light up. I'm going to deselect that. Now I'm going to select all of the surfaces. So these are all these single surfaces with nothing connected or joined. And then we can click on the poly surfaces, which are multiple surfaces. So those now light up. Notice how it's adding to that set. So I can click on curves one more time and those get included. So that avoids having to type shift, which would be difficult with the buttons. A very common problem beginners run into is they accidentally copy and paste and get lots and lots of stuff stacked up on top of each other. I'm going to click on this circle here and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. So notice there's like 5 or 6 curves. They're all identical. You wouldn't even notice it. And in fact, you could try to extrude these or trim them and you'd run into a problem. It just wouldn't make any sense. The software wouldn't know which one you're pointing at. And then when you're done, it wouldn't look like anything happened because the other copies are still in their original condition. So the way you used to have to do this was pick each one and delete one at a time, which is no fun if you had like 20. By the way, the way this happens is if you copy and paste and then later on use one of those repeat keys, for example, the Enter or Spacebar, it's just going to keep pasting, and you might not be aware of it. I've had occasions where I put my elbow on the Spacebar and I get like 100 copies. So it's no fun to delete. So luckily now we can get rid of those pretty easily. So right under here is select duplicate objects. Now what I love about this is it's going to pick all the copies except for one. So you remember there's like 6 of them on top of each other. So I'm just going to use this command. 5 of them have lit up, and if I hit delete, well, it looks like nothing happened. Let's check it out. There's just one left. We don't have that little menu that pops up and says, which one do you want? Awesome. So remember that. Duplicate objects. Finally, I'm going to talk about a selecting scenario where beginners get really confused, and it seems like Rhino is asking for way too much input. So I'll kind of give you an example of both ways and why it makes more sense, hopefully. Now I'll turn on the cases layer to focus on some new info. I'm turning off the geometry layer with its layer on-off light bulb icon. So we're just going to do a very simple trim with 2 lines. So I'm going to go over here to the main toolbar and just do the trim. So if you look at the command line, it's asking us which of these entities will be cutting. So we'll just say this arc will be the cutter. Now it says enter when done. It's like, you're probably asking yourself, that's kind of weird. I just clicked it. Why do I have to say I'm done? Hang on, I'll explain. Now it says, which object do you want to trim? I'm going to click on this segment here. And then again, it says, let me know if you're done. So that's a scenario where it just seems really silly. But most of the time, you'll be doing something like this. A more complicated trim with a click start to make sense. So I'm going to repeat that command, do the trim, and it says, okay, where are the cutting objects? I'm going to pick those 2 arcs. Now I'm done picking because I could have a lot more. You never know. So I'm going to hit right click to accept or enter. And then the objects to trim. Hopefully you see why I can't just click one and it be done. And in this case, I'm going to draw a crossing box. Pick all of those guys. So selecting object is critical to your workflow in any 3D software, and selecting objects one by one only works while the project is in its early stages. Later, you'll need to start using some of these advanced selection techniques, but you can always mix and match to your preference for selecting. For larger projects, you'll want to take advantage of Rhino's layers, which allow you to turn off whole selections of the model to avoid clutter and confusion. Besides the techniques covered in this video, layers can be a powerful tool for selecting and organizing, so we'll cover that next.